I want you to picture a scene with me. It's Moscow. Let's say late 2025, maybe early 2026. You're in a coffee shop, one of those really sleek places.
Mm?
Exposed brick, oat milk lattes, the works. It feels like any modern city.
Sure, I can see it.
You pull out your phone to pay, you tap it on the terminal,
Mm.
and nothing happens. The screen just hangs. You try it again. Error. The barista just sighs, but it's not a sigh of surprise, it's exhaustion.
Like she's seen it 100 times that morning.
Exactly. She pulls out a physical paper notebook, and writes down your name and how much you owe.
It sounds like something from a time travel movie.
It really does. Then you walk outside to get a taxi, you open the app, the map loads, but the little car icon just spins. It's searching, and then it tells you you're currently floating in the middle of the Moscow River.
Right, miles from where you're actually standing,
Mm-hmm.
which is becoming the standard experience.
And your first thought would be, okay, the sanctions are hitting hard, the tech is just breaking down. But we're looking at a stack of analysis today that says that's completely the wrong way to look at it. This isn't a glitch.
No, it is a feature, a very deliberate and very expensive feature.
And that's the core of our deep dive today. We're going to look at the machinery behind Russia's internet shutdowns. We're going to try and strip away the propaganda to get to the enforceable reality.
And what emerges isn't a picture of a state that's failing. It's a state that is actively and purposefully dimming the lights.
So to understand this, we have to frame it correctly. We're analyzing the mechanics of control during the invasion of Ukraine. But you mentioned a concept from our background research that's key here.
Yes. We really have to look at this through the lens of a mafia state.
A mafia state. Now, usually when you hear that, you think of, bribes and corruption.
And that's part of it, but in this context, it's more about how the state views its own infrastructure. In a functioning democracy, internet access is basically a utility, like water or power.
You pay your bill, you get the service. It's a right.
It's a right. But in a mafia state, everything is conditional. Connectivity isn't a right, it's a privilege. And it's a privilege granted by the boss who can revoke it the second it threatens the family business.
So the internet only works as long as the state feels secure.
Exactly. If the boss gets paranoid, the lights go out.
Let's put some numbers to this because the scale is just staggering. I was looking at global stats for internet shutdowns. In 2024, if you combine every single unstable region in the world, the average was about 296 shutdowns for the whole year.
So less than one a day globally.
Now look at Russia. In just one recent month, over 2,000 shutdowns.
2,000. Just let that sink in. It's an explosion of silence.
And the timeline shows a real shift. The reports mention that around May 2025, the government used to issue warnings. They'd tell businesses, hey, we're turning off the LTE tonight for maintenance.
But then by June, July, the warnings just stopped.
Right.
And this is what analysts call the normalization of instability. It's when a shutdown goes from being an emergency measure, break glass in case of fire, to just a standard tool of governance. The state is essentially training the population to accept that connection is a privilege.
It's kind of national gaslighting. But they have to give a reason, don't they? They can't just come out and say, we're turning it off because we want to control you.
Of course not. There's a narrative for that.
SVO.
Right, the so-called special military operation. The official story is that these are fan shutdowns, and it's all for defense. They claim the Ukrainian military uses Russian mobile networks to pilot drones deep into the country.
Okay, let's unpack that for a second. It sounds plausible on the surface. If an enemy drone is using 4G to navigate, isn't turning off the cell towers a legitimate tactic? Why are the sources so sure this is a lie?
It feels plausible because we think of drones like the ones you can buy in a store, the ones you fly with a controller. But military, long-range UAVs, the kind of striking targets deep inside Russia, they just don't work that way.
So how do they fly?
They mainly use two things: inertial navigation and satellite guidance. The flight path is preloaded. Think of it like a submarine. It knows where it started, how fast it's going, and in what direction. It doesn't need to constantly check in.
So it doesn't need to talk to anyone while it's flying.
Exactly. And for positioning, it's using satellite systems like GPS or GLONASS. Turning off the LTE network on the ground does absolutely nothing to stop a signal coming from space.
Okay, but what about triangulation? Even if it's not using the data network, couldn't a drone use the cell towers themselves to figure out where it is?
It could, But here's the technical detail that really exposes the whole thing. Shutting down the mobile internet for you, the user, doesn't actually turn the cell tower off.
Oh.
The tower is still powered on. It's still emitting that basic handshake signal.
So it's like the lighthouse is still blinking, even if no ships were allowed in the harbor.
Precisely. A drone can still see those signals for positioning. The shutdown stops you from posting a video of that drone, but it does nothing to blind the drone itself.
And there's a huge geographical hole in this story, too. I was looking at a map of these shutdowns. They're happening in places like Yakutia, Kamchatka.
The Russian Far East.
I mean, Kamchatka is closer to Alaska than it is to Ukraine. Are we seriously meant to believe that Ukrainian drones are flying 7,000 kilometers across all of Eurasia?
It's absurd. And the data backs that up. Out of 230 regional shutdowns that were analyzed, only 78 actually coincided with a real drone attack.
So over 60% of the time, there was no threat at all.
Zero connection to any kinetic threat. So if it's not about drones,
It's about population management, information control. You have a protest, you have a rumor spreading, you just pull the plug. You keep people disoriented, unable to organize.
but there's a problem with that. You can't just keep a modern economy offline. We saw it in the intro. People can't pay for coffee. The whole system grinds to a halt.
Right. The mafia boss still needs the business to function, to make money.
Exactly. The state needs the economy to work just enough to fund the war. So they came up with what one source calls a Solomon's solution.
Loyalists.
The whitelists. A list of approved apps and websites that keep working even when everything else is dark. Banks, state services, domestic social media like vContact, certain taxi apps.
So on the surface, it seems like a reasonable compromise. Okay, I can't check the news, but at least I can pay my bills and get a ride.
It feels like a lifeline, but it's really a trap. This is where the mafia state idea becomes very literal. Getting on that whitelist isn't free, it's a transaction.
What's the price of admission?
Total transparency to the security services. To get your app on that list, you have to prove absolute loyalty. You have to integrate your systems with the state's monitoring tools.
And that brings us to SORM. I've seen that acronym everywhere in these reports. What exactly is SORM?
It's hardware. SORM stands for System for Operative Search Activities. It's a physical black box that the FSB legally requires every telecom operator to install on their servers.
So it's a physical tap on the line.
It's more like a vacuum cleaner. It just copies everything.
Yeah.
And it lets the FSB bypass the company entirely. They don't need a warrant to ask for your records. They just plug into the SORM box and take them.
And what can they see with that?
Who you're calling, your SMS messages, your location data, any unencrypted web traffic. And crucially, if you're using a Russian social network that's on the whitelist, SORM gives them your private messages.
So the deal is, if you're a bank or a tech company, you want to stay in business during a shutdown, you want to be on the whitelist, you have to let SORM in the door.
That's the mandate now. The FSB made it clear, no SORM integration, no whitelist. So convenience becomes the bait for monitoring. The state basically says, you can have your digital life, but only inside this glass cage where we watch everything.
Services only exist if surveillance exists.
That's it. And that gets to the whole mindset of the FSB. The sources really dig into this. They don't see people as citizens with rights.
So how do they see them?
As nodes in a graph.
A node in a graph. What does that mean exactly?
It means they're looking for patterns in the metadata. They aren't reading every single message. That's too much data. But they are mapping the connections. You are a node. The system watches which other nodes you connect to.
My contact list.
Your contact list, yes. But also your physical movements. If your phone's signal moves from A to B and another phone's signal moves along the exact same path, the system flags a relationship. These two nodes travel together.
So if I happen to share a taxi with someone who's been flagged as an activist, suddenly I light up on their map too.
You're now a person of interest, not because of anything you did, but because of who you stood next to. It's guilt by association, run by an algorithm.
Which brings up encryption. We always hear, use Signal, use Telegram.
Yeah.
If the SORM box is grabbing everything, can it break that encryption?
We need to be precise here. Can it break the actual math of end-to-end encryption? No. If you're using Signal or a Telegram secret chat, and we should stress, regular Telegram is not E2E encrypted. They can't read the content.
Okay, so that's a relief.
Not really, because they can still see the metadata. They see the fact that you're using Signal. They see that at 2 p.m., your phone sent a chunk of encrypted data to a server in, say, Germany. In a system where any action can be deemed suspicious, just the act of hiding your traffic makes you a target.
So using the lock, marks you as suspicious.
Exactly. And the sources point out other traps. They specifically call out Alice, the Russian version of Alexa,
A smart speaker.
a microphone in your home connected to a company that's completely beholden to the state. The advice is pretty blunt: unplug it. The same goes for crypto. People think it's anonymous, but if you buy it through a Russian exchange, the FSB can trace that chain perfectly.
So I have this system. The safe internet is monitored. The free internet is throttled. This leads to the big question. Is Russia just trying to become China? Are they building their own great firewall?
That's the question everyone asks, right? Is this the China model, the North Korea model? And the answer, based on this analysis, is no. Russia is not China.
Why not? Is it a technical thing?
It's a structural one. China spent 30 years building a completely self-sufficient domestic digital world. They have their own apps, their own servers, their own code. They can cut the cord to the West, and their internet keeps humming along just fine.
Russia can't do that. They're built on Western tech.
Exactly. They spent the last 30 years integrating into the global web. You can't just undo that overnight. If they try to full shut down their own banking system, their own oil industry, it would all collapse. So instead of the Chinese model, the analysis points toward the Iranian model.
The Iranian model, what does that look like?
It's called negative filtering. Since you can't build a perfect wall, you turn the outside internet into a swamp. You use throttling, deliberately slowing down traffic to non-Russian sites until they're basically unusable.
So a foreign news site doesn't get blocked. It just buffers forever.
It buffers until you give up in frustration. It's weaponized annoyance. And then, during a crisis, they use selective paralysis. They'll cut off specific regions or specific protocols, so it's not a solid iron curtain. It's more of a perforated iron curtain.
Perforated curtain, I like that. It's leaky, but it's still a barrier.
It's leaky. VPNs sometimes work, though the state is getting much better at blocking them. But the goal isn't total isolation. That's too expensive. The goal is friction, making it so slow, so difficult, and so annoying to get independent information that most people just give up and open the state-approved app that's on the whitelist.
Because it just works. It's the path of least resistance.
And that path leads straight to the state propaganda machine.
There's also a legal side to this that seems to be tightening the screws even further. The reports mention new laws centralizing this power.
Yes, this is the final piece of the puzzle. These laws now give the state censor, Roskomnadzor, and the FSB the legal right to cut off all communications centrally.
And we're not just talking mobile data anymore.
No. This is landlines, home fiber optics, everything. And, critically, it lets them bypass the telecom companies. It used to be the FSB had to order the operator to flip a switch. Now, the law allows the FSB to have their own switch.
The off switch is moving directly into the hands of the security services.
Exactly.
So let's go back to that person in the coffee shop. Their card won't work, their taxi app is broken, they're writing an IOU in a paper notebook. It feels like they're living in a failing state.
But that's the crucial mistake in perception. We can't see this as broken. We have to see it as designed.
It's not a failure. It's a project.
It's an active construction project. This is a system of authoritarian control being built under the cover of the invasion. The instability isn't a bug. It's the entire point. It keeps people disoriented and reliant on state-approved, monitored channels.
It forces them onto the whitelist, into the glass cage.
Yes. If you want to live a semblance of a normal life, pay for your coffee, call your family, you have to use the apps that SORM can see.
It's a chilling thought. They're not trying to fix the internet, they're domesticating it.
Which brings us to our final analytical verdict. Russia is not just failing to maintain its network, it's actively dismantling the free web to build a digital prison. The internet in Russia has stopped being a tool for connection and has become a mechanism for state surveillance.
And unlike a temporary wartime problem, this infrastructure, the SORM boxes, the laws, the list, that's not going away when the fighting stops.
No, that switch is now permanently in the hands of the FSB. The cage has been built, the door is locking, and there's no going back.